was a time before the console wars when you didn't have to hide what systems you played. Sure, we'd have skirmishes now and then. Sega fanboys versus Nintendo fanboys, but it was never like this. Never like this. I'm not afraid to admit I was a Nintendo kid growing up. The first system I ever played was an Atari 2600, but I was a little too young to actually appreciate the games until we got our NES. From there, we upgraded to the Super NES and then to the PlayStation. I didn't hate the Sega, which is a lot more than you could say about some of my friends. I just never owned one. That's not to say I didn't appreciate what Sega was doing. I knew the characters and the big seller titles, and the differences between versions of games. I had a lot of friends who did own a Sega, so I had opportunities to play it, but I never really had the chance to appreciate it until years later. When I found the box in an old burnt-out storage facility, I admit I was excited. The box contained a collection of various Genesis games, and one group in particular brought back all sorts of memories. Bad memories. I never had a chance to actually sit and play the games at my own pace. Everyone would be telling me what to do, where to go, completely ruining any enjoyment I could have gotten from the experience.
Go jump on him! Yeah, jump on him! Watch that! Go through the wall! Jump on spikes! Look at the elbow!
But now that I've had some time to actually play the games and analyze them leisurely, I finally come to a conclusion. I don't like them. Stand here and go over every Sonic game in the series, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I just don't have that kind of time. There are about 30 games in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, and that's not counting spin-offs like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Knuckles Chaotix, and Princess Sally's Furry Bukake Simulator. And secondly, it's pretty universally accepted that at least half of the Sonic the Hedgehog games suck. For most people, the cutoff point is right around the Dreamcast. Some say Sonic Adventure was the last truly great Sonic game, and since then, Sega has been trying its damnedest to recapture the magic of Sonic's first leap into 3D. So it's pretty common nowadays to hate modern Sonic games, usually for pretty arbitrary reasons. But I genuinely think these games are critically flawed. For me, the series started going downhill with Sonic 3. One thing I want to get out of the way before I go any further. I fucking love the music in this series. Say what you will about the games themselves, and believe me, I will. But the series has one of the most catchy, memorable, and downright fun soundtracks in the entire 16-bit era. That's coming from a system that, by the creator's own admission, was notably lacking in the sound department, to put it delicately. But if Sega could put together such great music for the Sonic games, why couldn't anyone else on the system? Let's start at the very beginning. Very good place to start. The very first Sonic the Hedgehog game for the Sega Genesis. Allow me to set the mood for you. In 1988, the Sega Genesis, known as the Mega Drive overseas, was launched in direct opposition to the NES. Back then, it was marketed as the badass system. 16-bit as opposed to NES's 8, and instead of the solid gray brick, it had the sleek black design in both the console and the controller.
If you're not playing these games, you're a giant loser.
The Sonic the Hedgehog series was created to show off the Genesis' graphical speed, which was infamously referred to as blast processing.
So what's blast processing do?
Even Sonic himself was designed as the anti-Mario, whereas Mario is a short, fat human which fights a large, spiky humanoid animal, Sonic is a short, spiky humanoid animal that fights a large, fat human. For some reason, the feature I always found the most fascinating was the C button. I know it seems like such a small thing to think about, especially now when we have controllers with 16-button inputs, 2 analog sticks, vibration function, and optional sunroof, but back then the number of buttons on a controller were indicative of a system's possible complexity. Looking at the NES, there were a lot of games that required you to do button combinations for something that should be simple, like pressing up and B to throw a sub-weapon in Castlevania.
And I'm sure we all know how well that turned out.
Still fucking hate that game. The Atari 2600 was even worse, since it only had one button. Certain games required you to press up to jump, or down in the button to use special items, which made more complex games much harder to control. There were even some games like Raiders of the Lost Ark which required you to use both controllers at the same time. And yes, it's exactly as awkward as you'd imagine, but I actually find it pretty creative. I'm surprised more games didn't use a gimmick like that.
But A, B, and C buttons? That's like 50% more buttons! So what does Sonic the Hedgehog do with this revolutionary control scheme? Well, the A button causes Sonic to jump, and the B button causes Sonic to jump, but the C button also causes Sonic to jump.
I first played this game when I was about 5 years old, and even then I realized it was stupid. I thought maybe I was missing something, like there were different strengths of jumps or different abilities associated with them, but no, I was giving the game much more credit than it deserved.
This spectacular, state-of-the-art game that was supposed to introduce the world to the awesome power of the Genesis and tell Mario to eat shit could be played with an Atari 2600 controller.
That's no good.
I know it sounds like I'm dwelling on a minor thing, but I'm really not. Pretty much every problem I have with the series stems from this simple design choice.
This control scheme has plagued pretty much every Sonic the Hedgehog game I've played, and for no good reason.
Now, I'll admit that having simple controls is not necessarily a bad thing. There are tons of really creative, top-selling arcade titles that only use a single button for interactivity, like Kodo or Cannibal. These games don't even use a directional pad, so there's nothing wrong in principle when Sonic's only means of interactivity is moving and jumping. And in the first game, this wasn't a problem. You only had one action you can do, and all of Sonic's other abilities were derivative of that. I'll get more into this later, but for now let's address some of the other problems I have with the game. Coming off of a lifetime of playing Super Mario Bros., or for that matter any similar platformer, the game really requires a complete rethinking of how you control your character. Sonic gains momentum in a logarithmic fashion, so you have to have a running start if you want to pick up speed. Normally you don't have to worry about it, but eventually you'll come to a place like this when you don't have enough momentum to climb the slope. Trying to run up the slope is either excruciatingly slow or physically impossible. I mean, look at this slope. Are you saying Sonic can't climb a 1-degree incline?
Well, no one ever escapes from Fat Camp, 'cause the only way out is up a gentle slope.
It's times like this when I instinctually press the B button, trying anything to get a boost of speed, but of course the B button doesn't do anything but jump, which sends the player rocketing off in the complete opposite direction.
What the fuck?!
That's no good.
But for all its flaws, it's undeniable that Sonic the Hedgehog is a classic game, and there are probably tons of people watching this that think I'm just bitching about the game because I suck at it. But keep in mind, I haven't been playing this game all my life. I haven't memorized where every enemy and secret passage in the game is, or where to jump, roll, or stop in order to get through the game without losing a single ring. But that's insubstantial to the point I'm trying to make. When the core controls and physics of a game are flawed, it's a massive obstacle to actually enjoying the game.
Sonic 2 marked much improvement to the design of the game. Not only was the level design loads better and a lot more creative, the bosses were more balanced and fun to fight. And best of all, they introduced the spin dash technique, which allows you to create a burst of speed without having to get a running start, which makes segments like this a lot easier to deal with.
This turning point would have been great if it weren't for one problem. They made the spin dash button the same as the jump button!
Going back to Castlevania for a minute, the only reason you had to press up and B to use your special attack was the fact that they already had A and B set to actions. They didn't have a spare button you could use to throw your special weapon, so they decided to make it a combination. Given the limitations of the interface, you can forgive them for this. But with Castlevania 4, now that the Super NES had 6 functional buttons, they were able to eliminate this potentially game-breaking design choice by giving you the option of using R to throw your special attack.
See what I'm getting at? More buttons means more possible actions! But the creators of Sonic 2 apparently never got the memo that there are 3 functional buttons on the Genesis controller. So every action is mapped to a single button, and it's simply a matter of context which action you will perform. If you're ducking and you press jump, you will spin dash. But if you're moving and you duck, you'll roll into a ball. And if you're rolling and you press jump, you will jump and probably hit some spikes or an enemy. Compound this with the fact that there's no way to stop your momentum other than just letting friction do its thing, and you have situations like this where you're desperately trying to come to a complete stop just so the game will let you duck and use your spin dash. Yes, you're trying to stop just so you can speed up. It's times like this when you wish the game had a dedicated brake ability, but in order to do that, they would need another button, and where on earth are they gonna get one of those? Oh yeah, get rid of one of the 3 fucking jump buttons! No, I'm not gonna let this go! 3 buttons to jump and not a single one to stop! Was this game designed by Eskimos?
That's no good.
Sonic 2 was also responsible for introducing Sonic's, partner, Tails. And while 2-player simultaneous cooperative games were incredibly rare even back then, make sure if you choose this option, you have somebody to actually play with. Preferably someone with thumbs. Because if you don't, you're going to be facing an even harder game than playing with just Sonic, since Tails doesn't do shit except die and get in the way. Oh sure, occasionally he'll prove useful for helping defeat a boss, but most of the time he just flutters around, gets stuck in corners, falls in pits, loses your rings. You know, I don't even think Sonic wants him there. Tails is just one of those annoying friends who tags along with you everywhere, mirrors your every move, and is so fanatically devoted to you that he'll actually follow you blindly into certain death. And Sonic can't get rid of him. Even if you manage to ditch him in a pit, he'll come after you with his helicopter tails. He can even travel through walls, he's a fucking poltergeist.
Hey there, what's going on? What are you doing?
What the hell are you doing here? And why do you have a British accent?
Mobius is right underneath England, didn't you know?
Well, how come nobody's found it?
No, the entrance is in Wales.
Oh, okay.
Although, you know, I was born under Norfolk.
I guess that explains the 2 tails.
Ooh, hey, what are you doing?
Get out.
Am I on it?
No,
hey,
no,
can
out.
I say hi to all my friends? Hey, honey. Hey, listen to...
Even once you get over the controls, there are so many other problems with the game as a whole.
There's segments where the game throws its drag chute and you're forced to go through some stupid alternate control method. This stuff happens so quickly your brain practically gets whiplash. I can understand why they put it in, they want to add some variety to the gameplay. But when the levels are laid out with no such rhyme or reason and there's no way to anticipate what's going to happen without having played through the entire game 5 times in advance, all it does is frustrate and annoy a new player.
The entire game, from the ground up, from the graphics engine to the main character himself, is supposed to be about speed. So naturally, you want to be going as quickly as possible. But there are so many cheap shots that are impossible to predict, and practically every enemy in the game is arranged in such a way that forces you to either take damage or stop dead in your tracks waiting for them to be vulnerable again. Fuck! Oh, come on! Are you fucking kidding me?
That's no good.
So many level design choices make absolutely no sense. Look at this part. The only way to open this door is to hit this switch, but the switch is in front of the door and in such a position that you have no choice but to hit it. Usually when you have a locked door, there's some sort of puzzle or exploration involved in opening the path, like pushing a block onto the switch to keep it open or backtracking slightly to find a lever. But here, it's completely pointless. The only way to even get to the door without hitting the switch is to make a very lucky running jump. It doesn't take any effort to figure out how to open the door, and the mere fact of going towards it actually opens it up.
That would be like creating an automatic soap dispenser because you don't want to get germs on your hands from touching the nozzle, even though you're about to wash them anyway. Oh, fuck you!
Or right here, where the designers decided to be sadistic and put spikes in the bottom of this pit. If you can't get out of it, why not just make it an instant death pit? Why do we have to sit there as the spikes take away our shield, rings, and then finally kill us? It's like the developers are mocking you, like a cat toying with a mouse before finally putting it out of its misery. And can you please tell me whose brilliant idea it was to put all this shrubbery and shit in front of the camera? I don't give a damn how pretty your graphics are, if they're blocking the floor, it's a bad place for them. Another big problem with the series as a whole are sections like this, when you have no control over the character and you're forced to just sit and watch while the game does fun stuff without you. Is there a point to this? Yeah, it looks cool, I guess, but what's the purpose? Is there any reason I have to go through 2 elevators here instead of just taking one all the way to the top? Is there any reason to stop holding right on the control stick? There's no choice I have to make, no jumps, no switching tracks. It's not even a game anymore. It's a cutscene. It's a non-interactive, unskippable cutscene. Hell, why don't I just put the controller on the ground? It's not like it makes any difference. Here, Odo, you play for a second.
Just happened!
Yeah! You can die in the middle of a cutscene!
That's just evil!
That's no good.
But I will be honest with you. For all of the poor design choices in this game, there is one segment that almost makes up for everything. Casino fucking Night Zone.
This level is fucking awesome! And I think the creators knew they had a winner on their hands, since pretty much every game since has contained an homage to this level.
And Sonic Spinball is basically an entire game based on the concept, which is used against the boss here.
He's actually pretty fun to fight, since you're bouncing Sonic around like a ball and smashing Robotnik with the paddles. You can even steer him slightly with the D-pad, so go... What? Bullshit! That's bullshit! Randomly, Sonic will just suddenly decide to unroll, which leaves you completely vulnerable all over again. And there's no way to roll into a ball again in midair. So even the best level in the game is dragged through shit because of this game's poor design choices. Sonic 3 is where it started to get really bad. When they added new power-ups like the Lightning and Fire Shield, guess what they did? They used the same fucking button to activate them! So let's recap. Jumping, spin dashing, flying and gliding, shield abilities. 5 completely different actions, all controlled by a single button on a 3-button controller! Fuck you!
This game series is such an enigma! Amazing graphics, incredibly catchy music on a system that was never designed for it. Shockingly creative technology that allows you to play as Knuckles in the 2 earlier games. This shit was DLC before DLC even existed. But the creators were so adamant about making a game that's simple to control, they never tried to make it easy to control.
Team Sonic got lucky with their first couple of games, but after that point, they had no idea what the fuck they were doing. And if you look at any of their 3D games, it shows like a pregnant Zerg Queen. Sonic with friends, Sonic with a sword, Sonic with lycanthropy. Ironically enough, these games do finally use more than one button to control Sonic, but it's too little too late. You've let down your fans too much, and they're not going to fall for it any longer. You're responsible for creating a fan base of instantly recognizable and downright adorable characters. So much so that entire fandoms exist just purely for their love of the canon outside of the games. Fanboys who have fantasy crushes on Amy and Sally and would give their own right arms just to interact with them in real life, only to be let down time and time again by the latest mutation.
What the fucking hell?
God, see, that's what I'm talking about. Look at that. That is how language should be, Sega. Us Sonic fans are adults. We can handle a little swearing, alright?
Fans so desperate for a good Sonic game, they decided to simply create their own rather than letting the original creators butcher it any further. It's obvious I was never a huge fan of the series, but I can understand the appeal of the characters, and I can certainly understand being heartbroken when they're constantly forced to wade through shit as the creators desperately try to recreate the magic of a game that was essentially an elusive lightning bolt of inspiration to begin with. Now forced to play through every new incarnation hoping to recapture some iota of the joy and happiness of their childhood and finding nothing but frustration.
I probably could love this game series if I took the time to play it enough, but I don't think I want to. I don't want to set myself up for that kind of disappointment in the future. I already have my own demons to deal with.
Minion, you want to spend the rest of eternity in hell? Your wish is granted. Welcome to Hell, Michigan. Population 352. Wait, 353?
I'm Zero, and I'll see you in the next broadcast from the video game bunker. Where are my pills? But the creators of Sonic 2 apparently never got the memo that there are 3 functional wrong sides